On HTO Football today, we're joined by Charlie Cassen, who was most recently treading the boards in the West End in The Great Gatsby. Charlie chats to us about all things Barnet Football Club and being an actor. Hope you enjoy.
Well, welcome to HTO Football, Charlie. It's great to have you on the show. How are things, mate?
Very well. Thank you for having me on. I'm much appreciated.
Everything coping in lockdown still?
Yeah. It is just getting by, keeping myself busy, keeping myself sane. Missing football though, obviously that's the obvious thing. But yeah, I don't know. Bundesliga isn't quite doing it for me at the moment. I'm not going to lie.
No. We're going to get onto the behind closed doors thing, I think, in a bit. But I'm struggling, to be honest.
It's not the same. It's not the same. Football isn't the same without fans, and this has been confirmed over the last couple of weeks. Yeah,
I mean, obviously, another passion of yours is the acting. Can you just rewind to the beginning and where it all started for you? Where was it a school thing? I remember like drama sessions at school, at secondary school, being asked to come into the middle of the circle and do and that scared the life out of me. I think Tom was far better than me in that regard.
Yeah, I loved a bit of drama. Loved a bit of drama class.
Where did it all start, Charlie?
So you look back at family videos and stuff from when I was a kid, and I wasn't into drama then, but if you look at it on holidays and stuff, I'm always at the front getting the certificates for killer pool and like the stupidest dancer around the pool, all that sort of stuff. So I was always sort of loved being the center of attention sort of thing. And but the drama itself, I started year 7, started Finchley Catholic, and I really got into the after school drama clubs and stuff. And then the year 7s were doing a production of Oliver Twist. So I said, all right, I'd like to audition for that. So I went down there and managed to get the part of Bill Sykes, which was my first. Yeah, I had a little. The beard was like black marker pen from the art department, and they just coloured my face in, so I looked like I had a beard. I don't think I had a dog. We had maybe.
I was going to say, what was Bullseye? How did you get Bullseye on the stage?
I don't think they got the rights for that. But did that, and then I still remember it today. Being on that stage in the school hall, and just the buzz I got from it was just unbelievable. And I went home after that and just said to my mum, can I go to little theatre school, do some theatre classes? So ended up going to Bowden's till I was about 17. Did Saturday classes, did some acting exam classes, and it wasn't until I was about 16, so it's probably year 11, year 10, year 11. I said to I came to the conclusion that this could be my job. Before it was just a hobby and a laugh, and it just was a bit of an escape from school and stuff. So when I got to 16, I said to my mum, right, I don't want to do my GCSEs. I want to go and do not my GCSEs, my A-levels. I want to go to do a performing arts somewhere. So I got into a BTEC performing arts course at Barnet College, did that. Wasn't great, to be honest with you. There was I fell out of love with it for those 2 years, actually. There was probably me and one other person out of a class of 20 who actually wanted to do it. The rest were there because they didn't know what they wanted to do. So they had no passion for it at all, and it was sort of quite drowning. Did that, and then I came out of there with my grades and stuff. But the thing with acting is, when you go to drama school, which is the pinnacle of training, every top actor has been to drama school. There's some great actors who haven't, but it's the place where you go to get all your tools, sort of thing. The thing with that is you don't need grades. It's all audition based. So you could essentially have not been, you couldn't have gone to school, primary school or secondary school, or done any A levels. If you go in and do a good monologue and you're good, they'll accept you. You don't need any grades at all. So in that sense, the grades didn't mean anything, but obviously, as a backup, it's nice to have the credentials and the marks and stuff on your certificates. So I finished college. I'm 18 now. I said I wanted to go drama school. I want to train. I want to learn my craft. Took me 3 years to get in. Sorry, so I didn't get in the first 2 years. I did, the Uradas, Guildhalls, Royal Welshes, all these big drama schools, and I was 20. Came to my 3rd year auditioning, and I said to my mum and dad, I said, I think this is it. If I don't get in this year, I think I'm going to knock it on the head. Yeah, I managed to get into the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama, which had just been voted the best drama school in the UK at the time, which was good. 20 of us got in, I think, out of about 3,500 people auditioning. So yeah, that was good. Went up there, lived in Cardiff for 3 years, trained as an actor, did all sorts of stuff, which was incredible. And then graduated at 22 years old, and now sort of out in the big bad world really. And then you do a showcase in London where you sort of 200 agents and directors and casting directors turn up, and it's almost like it's like a cattle market. You come on stage and do your speech, and you just see everyone in the audience's heads go down to look at you in the program to find out who you are, what your name is, what you've been doing, what accents you can do. And then after that, really, you just get a call from someone saying, "Can come in for a meeting," and then that was it, mate. I was in the big bad world.
Well, Tom and I were talking off air just before about how in performance sort of related industries, I mean, we'll probably talk about footballers at some point as well. There is that harsh, cold judgment, isn't there? Assessed because of your footballing talent on the grass or how you talk on a stage. It's different to school, isn't it? When you're getting marks and stuff like that.
100%. It's a lot different. And also in the sense of like a trial, say you were on a football trial, if you're not good enough, they ain't going to take you. That's it. No hard feelings. They're not bothered. Do you know what I mean? They want to know if you're good. And it's the same with if you go for an audition in acting. If you go to an audition and they don't want you, you're not getting any feedback. You're not getting told why. It's sort of like, right. So in that sense, it has the same ruthlessness as trying to break into the football industry.
And still quite subjective based as well, I imagine. My missus was a West End actress and singer for many years. She went to Mountview Academy. But it's saying, the demoralising factor of sort of you're putting yourself out there, and it is based on that person's opinion on that day, or if you bring it that day. And I think the margins must be so thin as well. I mean, kind of always living on that thin line.
Yeah, mate, it's so true what you said about how you're feeling on a certain day. Like, I've been on the other side of it now since graduating. I've been on the side of, I help out every now and again down on the panel for the new auditions, and seeing it from the other way is really interesting because, like you said, depending on how someone is feeling on a certain day, it could turn the other tide. Do you know what I mean? And it's a tough industry. It is a very tough industry, but once you put in all that work and training for 3 years and all the money you've spent on it, you want to carry on, and it's all I've wanted to do for ages. And I think I'd be selling myself short if I knocked it on the head now. So I know how tough it is, and I know what it comes with, but I know how to deal with that.
I mean, you talk of the instability that's in the industry with not knowing when the next job's coming or the next paycheck or whatnot, and there's like a professional expectation, isn't there, for you to show the emotions of X, Y, and Z when needed. How do you deal with that, Charlie, on days where maybe you can't just seem that joyous professionally or crying professionally? Or
it's tough. You have to, what you were saying to me before about well-being in the industry and how my job is good for that. I was having to think about it, and I think it's actually the opposite. So I think my job isn't good for your well-being, but you have to find ways to make yourself like mentally stable during it. So like, it's tough because I can't think of any other job in the world where you don't know what you're doing in 2 weeks. It's literally that much. Like, you could get a call. I know it's lockdown, but if it wasn't, I could get a call tomorrow with an audition to go to an audition on Wednesday. I could have the part by Friday. Monday, I could be in a rehearsal room for a West End show. Like, it's that ridiculous. So you just have to keep yourself busy. The things I do to sort of, when I'm not working, I just try to stay creative. I try to exercise, go on runs because it clears your mind and stuff. Try to do anything I can to make myself still feel sane and still feel like I'm an actor. It's really tough when you're not acting and you see other people acting. It's easy to feel like, oh, I'm not an actor, but you are an actor. Even when you're out of work, you're an actor. I'll be an actor forever. Do you know what I mean? To the day I die. It's tough when you see things going on and you're like, oh, I could have done that, or that should be me, or something like that.
It sounds similar to footballers, doesn't it, really, when they're on the medical treatment table watching their teammates play in front of the audiences and the crowds. I mean, even when I was growing up, I remember, obviously, football was a big part of my childhood playing. I've never been on the stage at all, only the grass really. But I struggled at a similar age to you, really, when when you mentioned earlier about that period during the schooling A-levels where you weren't sure really what to do. And I think that's quite a big part of sort of growing up process around that 16, 17 mark, where I was playing football regularly, but also very invested in my education at the same time. And I felt like there was a period where playing football seemed to not be at the top anymore of my list, which I sort of struggled to deal with for a couple of years, because I felt like, well, I've always had a ball at my feet since I was probably about 7. And then all of a sudden I'm sitting there thinking, I don't really want to go and play that game today, Really, really, really tricky spell. And then, having said that, I mean, I'm still as fanatical about football as ever. It's just,
I was just saying, yeah, like you said, you were about priority shift, and you have to make a decision, don't you? A realistic decision in terms of like, can I make a living off this, or possible? Like, have I got that drive, and is it possible?
Yeah. And parents driving X, Y, and Z miles to get you to train in the week when you've got school the next day, and it's a huge sacrifice as well. So you have to find that balance, and there comes a point where you think, well, realistically, is this going to happen for me? Obviously, for me, it wasn't. But yeah,
I think it's about giving the best of yourself, isn't it? Sort of, it's doubling down and making sure that for whatever time period you give it absolutely everything in that period. So, like you said, Charlie, when it might have been your 3rd time going back to Royal Welsh, but you're saying, if this isn't it, that may be fine, but for the next 2-3 years or whatever, that's going to be what I absolutely do. So I think it's just making sure you're always present and actually giving the very best of yourself in that moment. And if you decide that I'm only going to give it another 24 months, I'm only going to give it another 5 years tops, that's great. But for those 5 years, for those 24 months, just make sure you're absolutely bringing every single bit of you. But that's not easy. That's not, it's not easy at all. But I think you sort of owe it to yourself when you're in an industry like acting or playing football, where actually, do you know what I mean? You're always at the mercy of other people and their decisions. So therefore, the only thing you can control is what you bring. I mean, but mind you, what I was going to just try and move the conversation on with, what we can't control is when we are football fans and you have absolutely no control about what's happening on the pitch in front of you. You're a Barnet fan, aren't you, for however many years, Charlie, for your sins?
Yeah, Barnet fan. I've been a Barnet fan since my first game was 2001. I've actually I grew up on United. So my dad was a United fan, and he wasn't your armchair fan. I mean, he was at the Champions League final in '99, the treble United team. We were actually in Salou in Spain for a holiday, and he didn't have a ticket, but he got the train from Salou to Barcelona. I was about 5, and he managed to get a ticket to the game. I've actually got a funny story about that. So he was in the queue at the Nou Camp getting in with his ticket. And he's got chatting to this bloke in front of him who was from Barnsley. And he said, "Oh, how much did you get your ticket for?" And the guy was like, "I ain't got one." And my dad went, "Well, what are you doing? What are you doing in the queue?" He went, "Mate, I'm getting in, trust me." And my dad's gone, "What? You've not got a ticket? Look at all the security guards." He goes, "No, I'm getting in. So my dad was chatting to me. He was like, "All right, fair enough." So he gets to the front of the queue, and my dad's gone through with his ticket. And as my dad's gone through, a woman fainted right on the other side of the turnstile, and the turnstiles aren't like how they are now. They were a lot easier to get in. And this fella, all the security have ran to this woman, and this fella's just ran in, snuck in with my dad, and he sat on stood next to my dad, behind him for the whole game. And they spent the whole night. And my dad still tells the story now, and he still thinks that man tells the exact same story to his kids wherever he is. It was a mental story. So yeah, I grew up on United. I had the United shirt when I was 1 to the age of about 6. And then we used to go up there quite a lot. I went to quite a few games in the treble winning season at Old Trafford. And then my dad took me to the Barnet in 2001 for the Torquay game, the day we got relegated. I loved it, So we started going more often. We didn't go all the time. We went every now and again, as well as going United. But it was at that point, about 2002, 2003, I would have called myself a United fan and a Barnet fan. It wasn't until 2000 2005 when Barnet got promoted, that conference winning season under Fairclough, where I sort of became religiously, you know, I was 11. I just started school, secondary school. You get to the point where, you know, you're allowed to do things. You're allowed to go out on your own. You're allowed to walk. You know, I was getting the bus to school on my own. So I thought, I'll go down to Barnet with my mates. And it was then when it became religiously like, I'd go for them over United all day. And then 2 months later, we get United in the Carling Cup, which really like confirmed my feelings towards it when I was like, oh my God, we're going into Barnet, and like it's Barnet and United. And yeah, ever since then, I've just been home and away when I can. Obviously, when I was in Cardiff, I didn't get to go as much, but I used to go to the Newport games and the Bristol games, and come down whenever I can. So yeah, ever since then, really, I've been Barnet.
To be fair, I think you've shown a huge commitment by that, bouncing back from that first game against Torquay, Charlie.
I know, yeah. I mean, my dad still says to this day, any other kid wouldn't have wanted to go back.
Yeah, that just sums it up, doesn't it? Really,
I know. Yeah,
did well to carry on from there. Really, what a starting point.
I know. Right?
I didn't manage to get in that day.
Did you not?
No, I was queuing outside.
Obviously, I'm not a Barnet fan. So what was the score?
So it was
anyway. So what's the?
It was a huge game. It was basically whoever went down, whoever won stayed up. We were bottom, they were second bottom. There was 1 point in it. It was literally winner takes all. And I think we were 2-0 down after 25 minutes or something. And then Darren Curry missed a penalty just before half time, which would have made it 2-1. And then they scored again straight after the second half. And we managed to get 2 back. And there was a streaker as well halfway through, which I remember thinking, because it was my first game at Barnet, I was like, oh, does this happen every week? Naked bloke just runs on the bit. End up 3-2. And I just remember I was in the family stand with my dad. I just remember walking out very vividly, seeing like just a sea of yellow shirts from Torquay on the pitch, just singing up to their manager in stands. But it was to see that. I mentioned it on my podcast, but to see that in your hometown, you know, I didn't know there was that many people in Barnet before I went to that game. Like you just see the high street and you go to school, and as a 6-year-old seeing that, it was like, oh my God, this is like a massive event.
Yeah, just also as well, like for your first game to experience such a low point for the club, I suppose. It's just an example, isn't it, of the roller coaster ride of a fan, really, the lows and the highs. I mean, that day I always blame Tony Cottee for my exit from the football game, because I was on Barnet's books at the time. In their academy. Obviously, after that game, the academy they'd closed it down. So I'd signed a 1-year extension. I sound like a professional footballer, don't I? I signed a 1-year extension to my academy contract. It gets even worse, doesn't it? And I basically we needed to win that game. Otherwise, I wasn't at the academy anymore. So there was I didn't get in, and also my career ended at the tender age of 10 as well. So yeah, not a great day really. I used to love it down there at Underhill.
Yeah, it was such a family club, close knit club,
and the slope as well. The slope. Legendary, # the slope. Yeah. Yeah,
legendary.
Is that some sort of escapism? Do you feel like when you go to the games on the terraces, Charlie? I know you go very regularly. Is there a similarity with being on stage and being in the terraces? Do you feel that 100%. Sense of liberation?
Yeah, 100%. For sure. I definitely, it's a different buzz, but it's the same sort of buzz. I get the same buzz as going to a Barnet away game as I do when waking up on the first day of rehearsal.
Not a home game, no.
Both, but you know,
I can vouch for that, to be fair.
They're different feel. It's a different feeling. Like I like going to, when I go to the Hive, it's like, right, chill, tracksuit bottoms, maybe.
Yeah, no one
relax.
there.
Just relax. Maybe just chill out, a coffee. Then you go to a away game, and it's like, right, I'll get dressed up for this. Maybe have a beer.
Maybe
treat myself.
Yeah. But no, yeah, definitely feel the same sort of buzz in terms of like escapism and like just concentrating on something and having something to look forward to. Like without a doubt, like when I'm going Barnet regularly, it's the midweek, which is like, right, got a game on Saturday. It gets me through the week. Any football does really, but when it's a team you follow and support. And I've had stick supporting them throughout my whole school years, but I just shout back at the armchair fans and say, look, if you want to give it, go to some games first.
And there's something about watching your team play that it doesn't matter how good or bad the day's gone or how you're feeling at the time. There's that 90-minute period, isn't there? Where, I mean, Tom, you go to Arsenal every week, don't you?
Yeah.
There's that.
Poor bloke.
Well, but it doesn't matter where you are in the league table, if you haven't scored for 5 or 6 games or whatever it is, you know that when you go, you're going to get lost in it.
Yeah, completely. And also, the day, the atmosphere, the result, it means more. I mean, when when the years went by, and obviously I've been Arsenal fans all my life, but when I was younger and I wasn't going every week, I didn't have a season ticket. Your results, the results, and whether you're winning trophies or whether you're playing really great stuff, that kind of is all that matters, because you're not part of the family, you're not part of the atmosphere, you're not, those other things don't matter to you at the time. All you want to do is win. And obviously, when we were younger, we were growing up on Arsenal being very successful, probably from late 90s to early 2000s and stuff like that. So, whereas now when you go every week, like Charlie was saying, actually, you wake up in the morning or even a couple of days before, and you're looking forward to seeing a couple of friends. You're looking forward to the day out. You're looking forward to having a few drinks. You're looking forward to having a good day. And actually, although the result ultimately still matters massively, the football being part of your life isn't necessarily results driven. Whereas I think if you're just sort of watching on TV and stuff like that, it is, because it's all you've got. It's the only connection you have. And that's what I've missed over the last few months. Is not necessarily Arsenal winning football matches, because as we know, we've won less in the last few years than we used to. But actually, it's more actually that feeling, that atmosphere, that discussion, that debate. I mean, I still remember growing up in school and you put in the sort of dream teams on the back of your school books and stuff like that, and who's signing for who that summer and that kind of thing. And those kind of debates. That's what matters ultimately, not necessarily who ends up with lifting the trophy at the end. Because
I think all three of us are probably during this period, obviously, hugely missing the game, but I think for football fans in general, that sort of sense of normality has been really hard to adjust to, I suppose, not having games and
it's the polar opposite to what's happening now. So you're talking, I go to Arsenal, there's 60,000 people there, singing together, sometimes singing, they're together anyway. It's not the best atmosphere, but they're together for one cause, to potentially now the isolation in your own homes with your own family is the complete opposite. So it's a group activity with a lot of companionship and a lot of camaraderie versus potentially being in lockdown and isolation. And don't get me wrong, the human cost and the devastation the global pandemic causes is greater than a game. We do know that, but nonetheless, the game plays such a huge part in individual people's lives. So yeah, it's been, I think from that perspective, it's been tough for everyone. But that just hopefully means we'll enjoy it more when it comes back properly.
I mean, not everything that comes from the terraces is always in goodwill. The difference between a theatre crowd, Charlie, and a football crowd, there's that different expectation, like we said earlier, where, like Tom mentioned, football fans aren't in control of what happens on the grass, whereas at least you'd like to think that if you're sitting in a theatre seat that you're going to get guaranteed entertainment, hopefully most of the time anyway, whereas in football you really don't know what's going to happen, do you, the next second to the next.
Yeah, you say that though. You say that about the fans, theatre fans and football fans being different. I did a play last year.
Here we go.
I did a play last year called The Plough and the Stars. I did it at the Lyric Hammersmith.
Yeah.
And it's basically it's a play about the Easter uprising in Dublin in 1919, just after World War One. And it was 85% of the cast were Irish, and then me and this other guy were playing the two British soldiers who went over to Dublin and obviously invaded Dublin. We then went to Dublin and done it in a theatre on Grafton Street, which is right in the heart of Dublin. And I got booed in the bows. I got booed by the Dublin crowd. So there was a sense of
this is how it feels to be Robbie Savage.
Yeah. So it feels to be Robbie Savage or Joey Barton getting sent off. But I just walked on and I could just hear boo, boo. So they're which I mean is a good thing, because they were obviously invested in it, and they're really passionate about their history and stuff. But Yeah, it's a strange one. I mean, like you said about as a footballer on a pitch, you can afford to do something wrong. You get stick for it from your fans. If you did a misplaced pass, that's just part of the game. You carry on and you try to get yourself going forward in the 90 minutes. Whereas if we as actors on a stage fluff our lines or like something like that, I mean, we're trained to get out.
Yeah, it's not part of the game, is it?
It's not part of the game. We're trained to get out of it, but it's not how the script goes. And more often than not, the audience don't notice. But I've been in plays where the silence goes on for longer than intended, and it becomes a thing of people know something's gone wrong here. But I think the thing with theatre, audiences know that it's a live art form and anything can go wrong at any point. So when something does go wrong, when I've been in the audience of a play and I've seen something go wrong, what tends to happen is at the end in the curtain call is an even bigger cheer, as if to say, "You guys, well done, you got through that, like congrats." And it's like we're all in it together, sort of thing, which is nice. Yeah, I guess.
It's like snatching a last-minute victory, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Added time.
Last-minute header. Yeah, last-minute header.
Yeah. I just wonder in that industry, Charlie, what is there a lot of work and focus around well-being for actors? Because I know obviously in football at the moment, there seems to be anyway, a huge push to support players. I mean, they're under the microscope, aren't they, constantly online and on the pitch? I mean, obviously the Dele Alli incident recently, they tending to focus on how much is watch cost instead of the fact that, you know, he'd been subject to something quite scary.
There's not as much as there should be, personally. There are things like Equity and Spotlight, which sort of, you know, do like sessions every now and again on their website. They do like one-to-one sessions, like therapy sessions, whatever. But it's more of a thing where you've sort of got to go and seek it yourself. You know what I mean? Like get therapy outside of the industry or whatever, or chat to someone who's not involved in it. There's a campaign. A lot of the stuff that comes with being an actor is like the not knowing. So when I mentioned earlier about when you go to an audition, if you don't you go to an audition, your life is on hold because you could be waiting to hear for 2 to 3 weeks, and 90% of the time you don't hear at all. And there was a massive campaign that an actor called Danny Lee Winter set up, and he called it the Yes or No campaign, which was a campaign where for every establishment to commit to saying yes or no to an actor after they've auditioned, no matter what stage of the auditions they're at. They were saying all that needs to be made is a little button on Spotlight, which is where all the auditions go through, and you just click it, a yes or a no, and it gets sent to the actor who's auditioned. And a lot of people were on board with that, but I mean, this started about a year and a half ago, and I've not seen a huge amount of progress with it. But I do know that having actor friends and being in the industry, that's probably the toughest thing I've come across yet, is the uncertainty and the miscommunication between you and the person you're auditioning for, not having an answer. Like it comes down to little things like parents. There's parents that are actors. There's actors and actresses who have kids. You know, like things like childcare. Like an actress going to an audition and she knows that if she gets it, she's going to have to book childcare. Like she needs to be able to do that in advance, because if she doesn't, like, it's just all up in limbo. There needs to be more clarification that yes, you've got this. No, you haven't got this. Right, we can get on with our lives. And I've found out before. Sorry to carry on, but I've found out before that I hadn't got a job through a trailer that come on the telly. And it's like, right, okay, there we go. That's the one. That's the part I went up for. Clearly didn't get it. I knew I hadn't got it because it had been about 3 months, but it was confirmed to me from the trailer.
I was just going to say that's ultimately what led to my missus sort of stopping performing. So she did it for about 10 or 11 years. You know, the various tours, like you said earlier, sort of drop of the hat. Like you're on a coach doing a play tour across the UK on Monday. The whole life drops, that kind of thing. And then ultimately, sort of when we got engaged and we were getting married, that just not knowing, you'd go to auditions, you'd read your stuff, you'd not hear back from your agent, you'd not hear back from them, you know, and it would just eventually that I'm trying to plan my life around something that's so uncertain. And then it just got to the stage where actually I'd rather plan my uncertainty around my life. So she still performs still does loads of gigs and stuff like that, but it's just definitely a secondary thing, and she does that in part of her spare time. So and it's just that is probably the most difficult bit. I think that was ultimately the bit that led to not the all under the nose. The rejection is fine. I think 99% of the time of an actor's life they are getting told no. It's more the sense that they're not knowing if you've been told no, and actually just sort of being left in the dark by other people, and it's just eventually gets to the point where not for me. That's what she got to.
That's a really bold. That's a really bold and brave thing to do, though. Like to devote your whole life to something, and then to come to the conclusion that I'm going to push this aside.
Yeah, completely. So we won't throw people under the bus, but yeah, like I said, she did it for like 20, 25 years ultimately, because she went to loads of drama schools, went to Mount View, did it on stage for another 10, 11 years. Then there was one, I think you're getting towards the end of the tether anyway, but then there's one particular got one role, did a tour, didn't go very well, ended up packing through the tour halfway through. And ultimately it's just that cathartic moment where just said, you know what, this is a step change, this is a pivot moment in my life. And actually, a bit like Tim said when he was a bit younger, things you start saying, well, actually still a huge part of my life. I probably just don't want it to be my life now. It will always be a huge part of their life, performing, singing, stuff like that, but just not necessarily the thing that will dominate anymore. And I think that's the beauty about being a football fan when you compare it to something like that, is that will never has to leave as a fan. So, if you're a fan of going to the theatre, or if you're a fan of going to the football, it's one of the only things that stays with you till you die, to be honest with you. I mean, it's probably the only thing in your club that stays with you all your life, because, relationships come and go, jobs come and go, passions come and go, even relatives and family, they come and go, but, your club's with you till you go. And I think that's a beauty in a way. And you've seen lots of documentaries now, aren't you, with the stuff like the Sunderland documentary, the Man City one, and actually seeing what it means to people and fans up and down the country.
That Sunderland Till I Die one is just... I think it's absolutely masterful. Absolutely masterful. Yeah, I mean, that opening track just gets me every time. I've got a lump in my throat every time I listen to it. And the lyrics as well, it's just on point. But I thought that was just a brilliant mix of the realities of being a fan and the low points and the high points and that desperation for success,
It's so sad because they clearly made season one with the intention of getting straight back to the Premier League. And then they went down.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, I know. They just, it was almost expected, wasn't it, that they were going to go up because they were Sunderland and they were in League One. And
they didn't. Yeah. It was twice at Wembley as well on season 2.
Yeah. Brilliant filmmaking though.
Yeah,
I just couldn't. I actually binge watched that one. I'm not a binge fan really, but that one I just smashed it out in the space of 2 or 3 days. But like as Tom said, I think that current trend of the football documentary, I think, gives the fans a real insight into their clubs, the players, to the training, their character, behind the scenes, how things work. I think it's great. I mean, I know some clubs have been a little bit hesitant to accept sort of Amazon's approaches. I think it will be quite common practice, won't it, in about 3 or 4 years. Actually, that moves us swiftly onto our swiftly or smoothly. I'm not sure. Our counter-attack segment, Charlie. We've got a nice little game for you now. You're going to enjoy this. Tom's going to kick us off.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll basically fire questions at you. We want ideally quick, rapid fire answers. Cool. Most of them are just either ors. So your favourite sports film?
Film. Oh my God. Goal.
Favourite play or musical?
My favourite play, probably Blood Brothers musical.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Would you rather play the lead role in a hugely successful run at the National, or be Barnet's number 9 for a season?
Oh my God. Oh my God. I need longer than a second for that. The lead role at the National for just once.
5 seconds.
Yeah, for a good run. No, for a good run of a good 6-month run or wherever it would.
I've got to go National. I can't. If anyone's listening to this and I choose Barnet, it could be my career over. So.
Well, the next one you might have to go for Barnet then. So to Barnet to go on a dreamy run and make it a few promotions to the Premier League, or England to win the World Cup.
Barnet, without a doubt.
Good man.
Club over country.
Best Barnet player ever.
Albert Adoma.
And finally, your dream dinner table. So we want 2 actors and 2 footballers around yours for a takeaway and a few drinks.
Danny Mays. 2 actors, 2 footballers.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go Danny Mays, Dean Windass, Tom Hardy, and let's go with Jimmy Bullard.
Nice.
Oh, great shout, yeah.
Nice, that'd be a good laugh.
That'd be a
Nice
good
little Friday night in, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I'm
Harry.
yeah, great laugh.
God, I'm stressed out after those questions, mate. My heart's racing.
You'll text me after and say, "Oh, can you edit and change the answer?"
Yeah. Can you change it? Actually, I'd rather be Barnet's number 9 for a season.
I don't think any fans would appreciate me being the number 9 for a season. We'd probably get down.
You'd hold the ball that well, Charlie. To be fair, 6'5". You could replace Liam Hatch. We never replaced him, did we?
Yeah, I'd fancy myself in the air, but if there's a ball over the top, game over.
Yeah.
To finish off, though, Charlie, obviously you've got a podcast of your own at the moment.
Yes.
Charlie Chats Footy. Just talk to us a little bit about how it's going, how you're enjoying it, your experiences so far, and obviously just to give it a little shout out.
Yeah. So what it is I basically had this. It's very rare that you come across like if I was in a rehearsal room for a new play with 10 actors and actresses, the chances are there'd probably be one person that I would chat to about football. That's been my experience anyway. Same with at drama school. In the class of 20, there was 2 of us who really, really love football. And the chats I do have with them, it's just fun. They're just amazing. I don't know if it's because of, chatting to you guys about football is incredible as well, because, you get the other, you're passionate. And what I'm trying to say is, I don't know whether it's the way that we actors are as people, that we have to like embody emotion and like characters and stuff, and we have that like inner, I don't know if passion is the right word, because every football fan has passion, but I find there's something different when I chat to actors or creatives about it. And whenever there's like an actor on Soccer AM, I always get like so excited, because it's like you hear the more human side of them chatting about their football team. So I basically just came up with the idea to combine the two together. And I was bored of hearing actors on interviews talking about what they're doing next, what they've been in. And I wanted to hear, I want people to hear like the more human side of an actor and hear about their other passion, where we don't talk about acting at all. Because I think when you watch an actor on telly, you think they're so embodied in their career and their character and their role that they couldn't possibly have a passion of anything else. So yeah, that was the idea. So to get actors and creatives on just to chat about football.
Who would be your dream guest, Charlie?
A dream guest.
Do you know, I'd love to hear Joaquin Phoenix talk about football.
Do you know what? Probably Tom Hanks. He's a Villa fan, isn't he?
Yeah, that's a good shout.
Get Tom Hanks on, talk about Aston Villa.
HTO are delighted to announce a new partnership with Football Beyond Borders, a charity whose mission is to provide young people from disadvantaged backgrounds the opportunities to engage and inspire them back into education. You can check out their amazing work at footballbeyondborders.org, and here at HTO, we look forward to being a part of their journey.